the 5 A's. There are other elements talking about chapter 1 and how to address problems, which I will not be doing a voiceover on at this time. So, alogia. Basically, alogia has to do with not being or a lack of speech. It does not have anything to do with dysphagia. Okay, when someone has a stroke and has aphasia, this has to do where a person has a lack of thoughts, a poverty of speech, a poverty of thought, and will be slow to respond or answer questions. Okay. We see this in Alzheimer's. We see this in schizophrenia. We see this in severe depression. Speech can be slow. It can be broken where they start to answer a question and then there's just dead silence. And sometimes we need to just wait and be patient, and the patient will answer the questions. We try not to do the patient's work for them. But sometimes a patient is too ill to be able to answer all of those questions or to be able to make decisions yet because they're just too sick. So we have to know our patients well enough to know how we're going to intervene. But the biggest piece is to allow time for them to have a conversation. They are not intellectually disabled. They hear you, they're thinking, their brain is on. It's just their brain is not able to confabulate a conversation back or to tell you information. And when I say confabulate, to bring forth memories, false memories, to fill in those blank, empty spaces. So sometimes you can see a group of patients who have dementia or Alzheimer's sitting around the table for mealtime, but there's absolutely an absence of conversation that's taking place. This is an example of alogia. There were times with John Nash when it was extremely difficult, felt awkward and horrible when he was around his peers. And part of it is because he really had alogia. It wasn't just an awkwardness or an inadequate with socialization skills, which he had also part of the problem for him, but he also would have moments where he had alogia. Okay? So alogia. Anergia. Anergia. See that E-R-G-I-A? Energy. Anergia. So when we see A's in front of these words, it's indicating a lack of. A in front of a word for nursing, it's part of Latin, is usually meaning a lack of something. This is a lack of energy. Okay? So with a lack of energy, okay, and we're tired. We'll hear the word tired. I'm too tired to do something. I have no energy to do something. It also can indicate somebody who has slowness in movement. Okay, slowness in movement to the point that they're slow to react to situations. They're hesitant almost in appearance to respond, and it's not deliberate. It is because they have anergia. Okay, so if you're mixing up cookies, for example, and it usually takes you 15 minutes to whip up a batch of chocolate chip cookies together, put all the ingredients and get it started into the oven. Okay, a person who has major depression, who has anergia, it might take them a whole hour to get the ingredients mixed up to actually be able to put it into the oven and start the first batch baking because the anergia is so impaired. And anergia can be so impaired with these patients that getting out of bed and getting to the bathroom in time can cause a person to end up being incontinent because they're not able to move fast enough to get to the bathroom. And so we see incontinence occur. Anhedonia. Anhedonia. This is the lack of ability to feel pleasure or joy. So things that once made you feel happy and joyful, no longer are you feeling joy and happiness. So, and getting pleasure out of them, whether it's hobbies, activities, having sex, whatever those pleasurable experiences are for a person, they're no longer bringing you any kind of pleasure. And it gets to the point you have no desire for anything or to enjoy anything. Depression, schizophrenia, and some other mental illnesses, but depression and schizophrenia are where those primary components are. And you'll learn that bipolar, which is a mood disorder where it goes high and low, sometimes it just goes low into depression, but there's just no pleasure. Postpartum depression. When a mother is pregnant, sometimes the postpartum starts before the mother even begins and delivers her baby. We now know men get postpartum depression. So this is something that's a newly diagnosed component. But these are some of those things to be alert and aware of. So things that used to bring happiness no longer do. Exercises, hobbies, music, social interactions. So these are those things. So like, for example, think about a teenager who just got their driver's license. What would you expect them to be wanting to do? Can I have the keys to the car, Mom and Dad? I want to go out with my friends, right? That's what you want to see happen. But what you're going to end up actually seeing with somebody who has anhedonia is they got their driver's license. Mom and Dad, can you drive me to school? Or they go up into their room. There's no excitement about going out and driving. There's no desire that's there. Ignasiosa. Okay, this one's a difficult one. This is where everybody struggles with this word. This is not denial. Okay, you know how we talk about the 5 stages of grief, and the first one is denial. You deny that the person's dead, or even in recovery, one of your first stages is you deny you have a problem. You got to admit you have the problem. Your first stage of recovery. Okay, this is not denial. This is where, due to your illness, okay, hear me again. Due to your illness, you are not aware that you are sick. So your illness prevents you from being aware that you are ill. Dementia, schizophrenia, brain lesions, right hemisphere stroke patients, all are people who can experience this. They are not consciously aware that there's a deficit or deficiency in their judgment, their emotional responses, their memory, their executive function. What's executive function, y'all? Their thinking, their decision making, their language skills, their motor ability. They're absolutely unaware that there is any kind of deficit going on. They aren't even aware that they're hallucinating or that they're having delusions. They're completely ignorant of the disease. Okay? And because of this, they believe what they are experiencing is completely real. And what is happening is real. So there isn't a problem. So that with a beautiful mind, John Nash, how long did it take you to figure out that he had mental illness? How long did it take you? This is a part of why I like this movie and how it was put together, because it actually allowed you to truly experience what a patient is experiencing when they have anosia. And this is what happens. He was in the hospital and he still believed everything that his delusions, his hallucinations were real. So real that chip that he believed in his forearm, he could feel it and that it was there. So he cut open and dug his fingers into his forearm and ripped his skin out so he could prove to himself and other people that there was a chip in his arm. But he couldn't find it. And this is a genius, a man with this huge IQ. And that was also part of what allowed him to reality test himself once he realized that he had an illness. And he could work on reality testing those delusions and those hallucinations. And that's what we want our patients to be able to do, so that they can stay in reality. Evolution. Now, patients get, or student nurses get evolution and anergia mixed up, because a lot of times they go hand in hand. Usually one starts, the other one will follow. Okay? So with evolution means a lack of motivation, and it's usually very severe. And when we say a lack of motivation, it's more than just motivation. It's a lack of completing purposeful tasks. So this person can be very mobile and doing lots of different things and doing lots of different tasks, because we can see this with a bipolar manic patient. Okay, they'll go and do 100 billion projects. However, those projects are not purposeful. They don't accomplish anything, but they're in constant motion. They're purposeless tasks. Evolution is completing purposeful tasks. There's a lack of being able to do that. There's a decrease in motivation, taking initiative, having a sense of self-directed goal, purposeful activities. It's not procrastination and putting off what you can do today for tomorrow. This is different than that. So this patient might decide they're going to stay in bed. But is this person staying in bed because they're not motivated to get out of bed? Or is it anergia? They're too tired. They lack energy to get out of bed. So you have to read your question very closely and look at the words. Are they using tired, lack of energy in the question, or are they saying, I just don't have the desire to complete a task. I lack motivation. I have no purpose. I can't direct myself, which would be evolution. So they neglect their appearance, their routines, their hobbies, their work, their school. their social activities. But that could also be anergia if it's due to lack of energy or being tired. So you have to look at your words. What is leading to that task, that behavior, that accomplishment not getting done? Okay. So if we got a postpartum depressed mother and they're not caring for their newborn, they're not getting out of bed to get dressed, is it evolution or is it anergia? What other words is mom using? Ignore this slide about mental health. This was an exercise we did in a previous term. This is just a breakdown again of some of the readings that was done for exam 2. This you guys are doing on exam 1. And this here is on response when you're answering a question. When you're in for mental health, we always look at safety first. That is the priority thing that we have to do, is look at safety. And the first part of safety is I really don't care how a patient feels if they are not physiologically functioning. The ABCs, they have to have airway, breathing, circulation happening. If those things are not occurring, it doesn't matter how the patient feels because they're going to be dead. So I have to make sure they stay alive to deal with how they feel. Bottom line. The next thing we look at is the suicidality of a patient, the lethality of their plan, their risk factors, their environment that they're in. Then we look at dangerous behaviors that a patient has and their thoughts, paranoia, disorientation, beliefs, practices, impaired cognition. What type of a disease do they have? Depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, etc., etc. We look at the patient's functioning. We need to look at their developmental stage. What stage should they be in? What stage are they functioning? In Erikson, Piaget, and Maslow. We assess those 5 A's in our patient. We assess and address the support systems of a patient, the family, the friends, the resources. We look at which therapies should be getting utilized. Psychodynamic, cognitive behavioral, didactic behavioral. These are the key things you need to make sure you completely have down pat so that you are able to pass this course and pass your boards.